Me. Are we on? Oh, yeah, we're on. Alright, guys, what's going on? We are live here tonight, Thursday, January 20th, 2022. And this is Odd Pods with the Odd Broad, and we are going to be talking about the West Memphis 3. If you guys don't remember, I did a podcast I think, 2 seasons ago.
Happy spooky one.
And regarding the West Memphis 3, this is actually an update from the case. Even though the case was considered closed now that the West Memphis 3 were released from prison due to the Alford plea. This is something that just popped up, and the headline reads, "Prosecutor refuses to cooperate with new DNA testing in the West Memphis 3 case," as Damien Echols, who was one of the accused, says. One of the centerpieces of the West Memphis 3 case says the Arkansas prosecutor is refusing to cooperate with DNA testing that could potentially help solve 3 murders for good. If you guys don't remember, the 3 boys that were murdered were Chris Byers, Michael Moore, and Stevie Branch. They were found in a little lake around the area. Damien Echols was one of the 3 teens convicted of killing 3 small boys, who I just named, in the West Memphis, Arkansas in 1993. Echols was sentenced to death, while his co-defendants Jesse Miskelly, Jason Baldwin were both sentenced to life in prison. The trio were dubbed the West Memphis 3 after a persuasive controversy surrounding the case spanned across the nation and several countries. The controversy surrounding that is that during that time, there was a thing called the Satanic Panic going around, and everyone was blaming everything on the devil, metal music, everything, influencing, saying there was a bad influence on causing people to do shit and like that. That was basically one of the most bullshit things. The case later became the subject of numerous documentaries, including The Devil's Knot, West Memphis 3, while such celebrities, can't talk right now, while celebrities such as the Dixie Chicks' Natalie Maines and Pearl Jam's Eddie Vedder pushed for the defendant's prison release. Miss Kelly, who has a low IQ, reportedly gave detectives a false confession which helped the jury convict the teens. Miss Kelly later recanted and claimed he was tired and ready to go home and said whatever the detectives wanted him to say. So, because I had this recorded like a few minutes ago, but the damn thing timed out on me, I had to re-record it again. I want to say it's coercion, kind of, like they kind of put words in his mouth so that way he can just say what they wanted him to say. And then, there's some tactics that they keep using to make sure they get a credible confession. But when you start putting words in people's mouths and they just want to say what you think they're gonna that you want them to say, it's kind of like coercion, isn't it, Mom? And
Basically, yeah.
I think that's what happens, like when they like a person for the crime and they don't get the confession they want, they start putting words in their mouth to make it, just.
They were saying, like, weren't you the one that said that? It just goes all backwards and it confused the kids and say yes or no. I don't remember, I don't know. And then they just like fixation on the investigation. Let's just say that there's okay, maybe somebody wears like a blue bandana all the time, and like it's the new thing, right? A whole bunch of kids wear blue bandanas, or they ride skateboards, or they all have bikes, and then they try to put that in with like a bike was left. Did you steal his bike? And no, I didn't. I have my own bike. He said, well, where's your bike now? So some kid stole it. Oh, some kid stole your bike. He said, so you beat the kid in the head for his bike? Just stuff like that. It's just, I don't know, so backwards.
Yeah.
Really backwards and annoying.
In 2011, the defendants were released from prison by accepting an Alford plea.
You know what an Alford plea is, right? You plead guilty.
Guilty, yeah. You plead guilty.
You plead guilty to the crime, but you're released, but it's on the record for life.
Yeah. Which allowed them to maintain their innocence and get out of prison, but the plea didn't clear the convictions, and all three men still have the murder charge on the record, despite their release from prison. Now, Echols says that the Creighton County prosecutor, Keith Chrestman, is rejecting the request for DNA testing. As one of his tweets, Damien Echols has tweeted a story from the local news in Memphis about the prosecutor. A guy named Chrestman is refusing to allow the DNA for the crime scene to be tested. So when you watch or read the books, or to read or watch the documentaries, you can see from the footage that they've shown from the crime scene itself and the news reports, is that the crime scene itself was heavily contaminated, including the home of one of the boys, because one of the boys, his own stepfather, was a suspect as well. But the crime scene was heavily contaminated, not just by the MEs, the police officers, but they allowed a lot of people to walk through the crime scene like nothing. And that's like, just, yeah, I was like, okay, watching it, and I was paying attention to it, and you see a lot of people just going in and out of the crime scene when they're hardly kind of looking for what they're looking for. And then they're saying that there's certain different fibers on clothing that was picked up but never tested. The prosecutor in Arkansas has refused to cooperate with new DNA testing. He says that we want it done and we have to fight for it in court. The news comes after the state allegedly failed to honor the state order for evidence in the case. In December 2021, Echols' lawyer, Patrick Benka, reviewed the case evidence that was that was thought to have been lost. The West Memphis Police Department and other officials are being accused of stonewalling the release of the evidence around 18 months and informing Echols' team that the evidence was lost or destroyed. What do they have to hide?
That they failed to actually, in the first trial, to prove that those kids did it.
Yeah.
That's what I think it's the most fearful thing a prosecutor can be accused of, is putting someone in jail, which they've done before. That's why you have this group that goes to bat for lifers.
Yeah, isn't it called the Innocence Project?
Yes, and they dig in there because the man keeps on saying, I did not do it, I did not do it. And he's got background evidence. He's got evidence he was not even around at that time. And when they do, and like now, before that, they didn't have any of that for them. And some served a long time before they were found not guilty. But what do they get in return? These kids went in as little babies, as what? Teenagers. They come out like, 40 years old? They don't have any skills. They don't have nothing. And everyone just looks at them like, yeah, you're the killer. You did this. You're the rapist. I mean, what does the city give back to them? After one man is determined to just find somebody to blame, and not to go look for the real killer.
Did you ever notice that in the documentary, it was like the juvenile probation officer was the one who had the grudge against Echols and Miss Kelly?
Yeah.
Like he didn't
like him because he wasn't going to school, so he went to his house a couple of times. Talked to the mom. The mom says, well, he doesn't listen to me anymore. And then they went into his room and they found just like hard music in there. So they just accumulated, and they just said, oh, well, he's a devil worshiper because he wears all black. His hair is black. He wears makeup. His fingernails are painted black. And the people he hangs around with listen to the same thing. So they must be in a cult.
Yeah.
And they sacrificed those little boys.
That's what it was. And then, like, the thing that really pissed me off was, like, without even a probable cause or anything, they just, like, well, Damien Echols must have did it right away.
Well, the thing was, too, is that the little boy's pants were pulled down, but they found no evidence of any kind of trauma. There was no semen found on the kids. They were just, like, their pants were pulled down and they were drowned and choked and drowned. And did they bother to go where the truck driver was? They saw someone from the truck stopped right there, which is not too far from where the boys are playing. They saw a man walking over there. They found cigarettes there that the boys didn't smoke. They didn't smoke that, but they smoked weed. So that automatically made them a bad person. And like I said, the prosecutor was just after anybody that he would make the evidence stick to. They never found no footprints, but they did find hair on the little kid's shoe from his dad, his stepfather. Yeah. There was a lot of stuff from the stepfather that was found on the little boys, like semen, for instance, on the little boy's tennis shoe. How did that get there? You know, just certain things, but they never really accused the stepdad.
Even though he was a person of interest, but
that was it. They just said that, but then they cut him loose. And they blamed the kids for everything. So yeah, that's why they went to bat. They said, I'm not going to get accused of something. I'm not going to stay in jail and be quiet and just take my punishment for something I didn't do.
After 18 months, Echols was informed that the evidence was likely not available. But after the state court order, Echols' team was invited to the West Memphis Police Department to review what evidence remained. What they discovered was a very organized catalog and intact body of evidence, and the group working on the case wrote, the group stated that Echols has submitted the FOIA request over 18 months ago, but the request went unanswered, which is a violation of Arkansas state law. Echols ultimately filed a lawsuit against the police department. 10 years ago, I had no choice but to take an Alford plea to get off death row. I needed to fight for my innocence and that of Jason and Jesse outside the prison walls, Echols said, and that's why I sought to test the evidence in the case to exonerate us and lead to real killer or killers. Once we made inquiries to the West Memphis Police to turn over the evidence in the case for advanced testing, we were told that the evidence had disappeared. We did not give up, and
how convenient,
right? And hopefully now we can move ahead and with all due haste to have this DNA tested. Also, in 2021, the West Memphis Police chief resigned during the same week as the new evidence in the case was released. Officials reportedly said that his resignation had nothing to do with the case. Bullshit. I smell bullshit right there.
Yeah, so do I.
Chrestman was not readily available for comment. Check back for updates. So, as this case continues to build up more pressure, I'll keep that updated. But damn, that's just insane. You need to
It just goes to show you, like, you know, the two chickens just to say, okay, I was wrong, man. I really didn't have no proof, and everyone proved me wrong that I didn't really have the evidence, and I was just gunning for anybody to take the blame.
Yeah.
So you'll never hear that out of a prosecutor.
No, because they're never wrong.
Yep. The embarrassment and people are going to be putting them down. Oh, by the way, election is coming up, so yeah. Shut the fuck up and shut the front door.
Right. Alright, guys, so either later on tonight or tomorrow I'll be concluding the Epstein case, and we'll start on a new subject. So stay tuned for later on, guys. This is Odd Broad signing out, and I'll check you guys in a couple hours. Also, you want to learn how to make your own podcast? Download the Anchor app today for free. It gives you all the tools to what you need to make a podcast, and you actually can make money from your podcast as well, as it is distributed through all podcast channels like Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Overcast, Podbean. So check it out. Download it and see for yourself, guys. All right, bye.